Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, readers of all persuasions. It is I, Gayla, and welcome back to Book Uncorked and Caffeinated. And today we're going to talk about the 10 books of 2026 that I will recommend reading. So as of date, today is, well, where you'll be seeing this will be June 19th, and I've read 58 books. So I surpassed my goal of 52 books. I'm actually going to up my goal. I just was trying to give myself some room to buffer to read some bigger books, but I've surpassed that goal. So out of the 58 books, these are the 10 books that really sparked my fancy while reading them this year. So this is going to be a books and caffeine day. I am drinking out of my reading era cup. I probably got this from like Home Goods or TJ Maxx, one of them, Marshalls, one of them. And I'm drinking Cafe Bustelo. If you know, you know. And because I'm a woman of a particular, my creamer is the protein premier because it's protein in it. And it's vanilla, the sugar is low, and I get to get all the fixings, so I'm used to it by now. But let's get started on the 10 books that really tickled my fancy so far in 2026. Let me take a sip. I've been sipping because I put too much coffee in here. That tastes so good. So let's get started. So, and this is in no particular order. These are just books that I pulled from my shelf and read, and I'm so happy that they are all like physical books. So it lets me know that I have been reading through my physical TBR. So the first book is by People of Means by Nancy Johnson. New author to me, first time reading a book by this author. And this was about a perspective from a mom and a daughter. So the mom was came up along the 60s during that era and what that meant to Black people, and then the daughter came up in the era of the 90s when we talked about Black men and being harassed and Black people still going through a revolution. And this was a perspective of both the mom and the daughter, but of their time, right? So the mom was the 60s and the daughters was the 90s. It went back and forth with the time, but this was a really good book. It gave some good perspective on history. It was deep. I'm not going to say it wasn't deep, but it wasn't one of those things where you felt like you was reading something too deep and you had to get out your pencil and pen and write things down. And I like how they are represented. So this is the mom represented, and then this is the daughter represented with the door knockers and the radio from the 90s, which is super cool because it's my era. I love it. So this was one of the books, People of Means. The second book is Good Dirt by Charmaine Wilkerson, also the author of Black Cake. This book was really, really good. This was another book that talked about history and the growth of Black people and what was important to us. And this book was about an heirloom that was attached to the death of the FMC's brother, and how that death brought about the history of their family and what that heirloom meant, and how it came about, and how their family kind of was structured because of that. So this is really a good read, Good Dirt. The next book is Thick of Love. I talk about this book ad nauseum by Danielle Marcus. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. Didn't know anything about it. Was in a new bookstore. Wanted to support. It was a Black-owned, woman-owned bookstore in Brooklyn. And I went there for an event, and I just wanted to support the bookstore in general. So I bought some books, and this was one of the books I bought. And Hunty, I have done shorts. I have talked about this book over and over again. I talked about this book so good. My cousin bought the book, and my mom wants to read it. Matter of fact, I think I might take this to my mom so she can read it. This because I'm going to see her in a couple of hours. But it was so funny. But Thick of Love, baby, get this book. This will have you on a roller coaster. You want to fight people. You want to do all the emotions you went through, because this, I have to look up more stuff by Danielle Marcus. I don't know if this is her only novel, but I'm in. I will be an auto-buy. She will be an auto-buy author for me if she writes. She has more things coming out. This book, If I Ruled the World by Amy Dubois Barnett. Oh my Lord. So this is not class. This is like contemporary women's fiction. And I was so mad because I was unable to go to the book signing that night, but my book is signs. I had to pick it up a couple of days later. I thought I wasn't gonna be working and I had to work, but I knew I had to get this book because I remember her from the 90s. She was an editor of, like, I think Honey magazine and a couple of other magazines, and yeah, Honey, Ebony, and Teen People. She was the editor-in-chief, and this just reminded me of the times. This gave me all the feels. Although she said this is not a memoir, it felt like it. If you know the times, you know, especially being in New York. But If I Ruled the World is super, super cool. It was just a good read. It was a good home feeling read, and I'm glad I read it. And this is turning into a series. I don't know if it's a series or a movie, but I will be the first one lining up to watch this, definitely. The next book, People of Lost Children by Sadiqa Johnson. So not a new author, but a new read to me. I had never read any of her things. She's most famous for The House of Eve and The Yellow Wife, I believe. And this was a great read. It read more of like a historical fiction, because it talked about Germany in the 50s and World War II, and how women, so black soldiers dated or had babies with German women. And of course that was not a thing, right? It was taboo. And so a lot of these children were like in an orphanage. And the FMC really, Ethel Gaithers really stepped up to the plate and made sure these children were taken care of. And there's a plot twist in here. I'm not going to tell you about it, but it was just so, I think at one point I sat on my couch and I cried a little bit, because you don't know what children go through, and you don't know what women go through when it comes to their children. And I'm not a mom. I've been in education, and I'm not trying to dismiss being a mother. Who are mothers? I've been in education. This is my 23rd year. And a lot of my kids, I call them my babies, because you just grow an affinity for a child that you have responsibility in teaching. And I can only imagine if I had to leave my child somewhere because of the circumstances. And at one point I cried during this book, because children don't ask to be here, they just ask to be loved. So this was a great book, and I'm glad this was kind of like my first book by Sadiqa. I know all of the books, most people have wonderful things to say about it, but this was a great introduction to her as an author, and I'm looking forward to reading other books. I bought The House of Eve, and I'm on the cusp of buying Yellow Wife, but I bought The House of Eve because it was a part of Book Outlet's like $5.99 thing last year I think. So I'm looking forward to reading that. The next book, I would not have thought I would have loved this book as much as I did. This was not a memoir. It was historical fiction, The Queen of Sugar Hill. I talk about this ad nauseum as well, about Hattie McDaniel. This book was so interesting. So Hattie McDaniel was the first Black African-American Oscar winner, period, right? The first woman, first person, first man, whatever. And most people, you know how you have that thing, the Oscar bug. Once you win the Oscar, it's like a blessing and a curse. It's like either you get all the work or you get no work at all. Well, she got no work at all, because you got to remember this was early on in history. And so even her having white supporters did not help her. But this book really made her, it talked a lot about her relationships with people in Hollywood, especially Billie Holiday. But it also, you saw her as a woman, not a Black woman, not a actor, actress, not someone that's representing this whole race, even though those were parts of it. But you saw her truly as a woman. She had husbands and she had lovers, and she did stupid things and she did good things because of men. And I like that part about it, because we don't often hear about the trials and tribulations of just being a woman, and especially women who have influence. And this was a great representation of the well-rounded woman in all the spaces that they're in. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. This was by Rashonda Tate. And then that made me super curious. So at the time, Rashonda Tate was a new author to me. And that made me super curious, because a few months after I read that, With Love from Harlem came out a few weeks after that. And this was just an awesome read. It talks about the Harlem Renaissance and Adam Clay Powell Jr. And I'm sorry, I am getting beside myself because this was about, let me not get beside myself. Hazel. So Hazel was the woman that played the two pianos at the same time. I think she was an inspiration for Alicia Keys and a lot of her earlier professional work in the industry. And this was about Hazel's relationship with Adam Clayton Powell Jr. and what was happening at that time. Her also as a woman of influence and didn't like meet a man, but was attached to this man because of who he was in the work of Black people, and kind of like, you know, she wanted to be a wife, she wanted to be a mother, but she also wanted to be herself, her full self. And so I did a video from Hattie to Hazel because it kind of talked about, once again, their experiences as women and trying to be all that they could be for themselves and others. This was a dynamic read with Shonda Tate again, and she's another author that I'm kind of looking at her back catalog and trying to figure out some things because she has a lot of work going on. So she has anthology, she has poetry, teen fiction. Oh my God, I didn't know that. She has some work with Victoria Christopher Murray. So yeah, I got some reading to do. So, but this was an excellent read, and I think I read this like immediately after reading The Queen of Sugar Hill. This recent read, these last three are recent reads, like for real, in the last week or so. So The Break She Needed by Lauren Lacey. So I met Lauren Lacey last year at a book event, and I bought all of her novellas afterwards. I ordered them online, and this was the first in the Black Summer Island series, and this one I took a liking to a little bit more than the other two. This is about Evie. Evie is like an overworked, underpaid Black woman, and she does all the good things, right? She's like kind of like the good girl, so to speak, and she does all the right things and still is overlooked and still is demeaned and cause health problems. She actually had a heart attack. I was like, huh? And so I am grateful that I have not had a heart attack or stroke, but I will be very transparent. My health has taken a hit this last 6 months, since about December, because I was just always on go and didn't pay attention to myself, as both of my jobs had me pay attention to others. And so it allowed me to kind of like, girl, step back, right? I do not want to be a statistic. I do not want to die before retirement. I don't want to die after retirement, because I'm going to be able to retire as a young, like a fairly young person. And so I'm taking my health way more serious. And when I read this, I kind of like shed a tear once or twice, because I was like, girl, you that girl, like calm down. If the work don't get done, it doesn't get done. If it does get done, it will get done. And if it doesn't get done and something happens to you today or tomorrow, guess what? They will have someone doing the work. And so this really spoke to my spirit as a Black woman, as an educated woman, as an overweight woman. Let's put that in there as well. And not taking care of myself the way I'm supposed to. So going off on a tangent, but this was one of the books that spoke to my spirit this year thus far. And then this book, J.L. Seegers is a new author to me. As far as reading their work, I know who they are, but I never picked up a book by them. And I picked up the biggest book I could, the New Haven series, which is the first book, Restore Me. So this is this is Sloane's and Dominic's story. Sloane was married to Dominic's best friend. He died, and Dominic and her had a contentious relationship the whole time they've known one another. They've known one another since college. But little did she know, he kind of liked her, and he was in the background. And the way he dealing with that, he could not be with her, is like be angry with her and be mad with her and pick with her. And then their paths crossed a few years after her husband's death, Eric's death, his best friend. And they realized they liked one another. And so it was a complicated love story, because they were both wanting to honor their friend and their families, and felt bad about liking one another. But they got through it. They got through it and they chose one another definitively. And it was such a great love story. This series has continued. I think it's 6 books. I read 4 so far. I think the other 2 hasn't come out yet. And these are the new covers. So if you are familiar with this, it's had like black and white covers, but these are the new covers. I've been collecting the new covers since I'm reading them. And last but not least of the newer reads, which I am like so honored to have read this, was A Committee of One by Opal Lee, the grandmother of Juneteenth. So I was going to read Ralph Ellison's Juneteenth, and it was a little bit too much in depth to read the time I wanted to read it. Like, I really want to sit down with that book and read it. I don't think I've read that book or parts of that book. I don't even think I've completed that book in its entirety. I think I just read bits and parts when I was in high school, so I wanted to tackle it. But I also wanted to read something for Juneteenth specifically. I was very intentional about that, and this had just came out. And so I read this, didn't know anything about Opal Lee, which is insane. And so I think people from Texas, because this really started with Texas, knew more about Opal Lee than most people in their history. So I'm kind of ignorant and a little embarrassed. Also, I hadn't been a history teacher. I should have known about Opal Lee, but life is about learning, right? And so not only did I learn more about Juneteenth, but I learned once again more about the woman, Opal Lee. She's phenomenal. And it's such a joy to read about women who want to fight the fight, but also just want to be a woman, wants to be loved. That's not my imagination, right? You can fight the good fight, you can do all the things, but at the end of the day, we do want to be loved as human beings and as women. So this was a great read. I read it over a couple of days because it was Juneteenth weekend when I started it, and I was in the Juneteenth mood. But this was an awesome read. Please pick it up. You don't have to read it during this time. You can read it any time of the year. It's a short read. It's just 217 pages. So yeah, this was the last of the top 10 books of 2026. So it will be interesting to see in December or January of 2027, my top books of 2026. Would these still make it? I have 6 more months to go with a lot of reading to do. I have so many books, and I'm so happy to enjoy them all. But this is my top 10 list. These are books that I recommend that everyone reads, and especially women and women of a particular age and all of the things. But I've had such an enjoyable reading journey thus far. And so yeah, that's that. So I'm actually going to do a little bit of book cleanup, because what you see is what you see, which is a little messy because I see what you see, but you don't see what I see. So having said that, drop in the chat as usual a book stack, but also drop the book that was most compelling for you this year. You don't have to do a top 10 list, but at least one of your top 1 or 2 books that you have enjoyed reading thus far in the first half of the year. And enjoy your reading journey. Like, read what you want, listen to what you want to read, e-readers, physical books, audible books, any of the things. Do all of the things. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you in the next video. Deuces. Bye.